destroy me. So tomorrow, when I see children, our children, living in a peaceful and happy Nigeria, smile, knowing that I conquered. You conquered, because our children will feel, see and touch the evidence of our victory. Remember, if you fight, you will get the Nigeria you deserve. But if you don't fight, then you deserve the Nigeria you get. Thank you.
Please, let's put your hands together for John Wright. God bless you. Let me be a little from when the Prof was delivering the paper, he was so passionate with the words, and those are words that we want to hear as an inhabitant. Our land, we must take it, they must give us mayor, we must do this and all that. And those are the things. See, let me tell you something. If you want to get something quickly from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's one of the best presidents that have a listening ear. I will tell you the truth. If you want to get something from him, you want his attention, sing only one song. If you sing that song and the video carry it, he will ask which people is this, and they will say it's original inhabitant in Abuja. Do you know the song? No. Just see on your mandate we shall stand. Once you see on your mandate we shall stand. So you say they say they are original inhabitants. So that's why I said I just want to digest a little and to be sarcastic with what I was actually saying. So, at this juncture, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we will be invited for a 15-minute paper presentation. And Mr. Peter, please come, where's your name? Come and introduce Prof. Sorry, I can't find the name here again. I will be taking on the so where Prof. Dave?
Thank you. We will be having the next paper presentation for just 10 to 15 minutes. I so believe on my Prof. It is a speaker and is going to be talking to us even without the paper. Can you please present that for Professor Mutuala Olusobo as he comes up? He's on paper presentation. Thank you very much, sir. Keep clapping if you want to get to our time. While he's doing that, I want to recognize the presence of our former chairman of World Indigenous person, the person of Mrs. Mary Azaki. You are welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And let me start by making a very important clarification about my name. I don't like it when my name is mutilated. My name is Makeyula Adebayo Olashupo. I'm a professor of public policy analysis and security studies with the Department of Political Science and International Relations. Sorry, sir. And I'm also the dean of this faculty of social science. I'm your landlord here. Thank you very much. Let me start by acknowledging our fathers and mothers. And even though I don't know many of you, I don't have your name with me, but I recognize our fathers in the universities, our fathers in the faculty, whom we hope that are still coming back to the faculty. The representative of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Mercy, thank you very much for being here, and we acknowledge all what you have been doing for the University of Abuja. Thank you, sir. Then we have the Director of Center for Indigenous People, FCT, University of Abuja, Professor Ali Hassan. Thank you very much for putting this program together. We really appreciate that. Then our senator, I've forgotten the name, sir. Former chairman. Yes, I've heard the name sometimes before, but I'm meeting him physically today. Thank you very much for coming and be part of us. Then my brother, the Professor Matthew, and who has always been very, very passionate. Not because he's from here, but because he stands for the truth always. I greet you too, Professor. Thank you very much for all you do, and our mother and our brother too. Then the Mother Secretary, right? Thank you so much. Let me say that I remain very honored and humbled for this great opportunity given to me to share my set of thoughts, my cognate experience. I've been in Abuja for the past 22 years. Where is that my brother was okay, I think he was born here, and he said he has been here for the past 40 years. Me, I've been here for the past 22 years, and it was University of Abuja that brought me to this university, to this land. And since I came to Abuja, I've always tried as much as possible to commit myself to justice, fairness, and equity about the indigenous people of Federal Capital Territory. When Professor Adasan contacted me on this program, I became very interested simply because I'm the one taking the current 100 level in the Department of Political Science, University of Abuja here in Faculty of Social Science, the resettlement policy in Federal Capital Territory. And I think I have some of my students here in this hall. You are the only one that is waving, and you are implicating others. Maybe because you've occupied the seat. That is why they decided not to come and drag the seat with you. During my little research on the people of the FCT, I got to know that there are a lot that need to be done to ensure political inclusion, economic inclusions, and social inclusion among the people of Federal Capital Territory, which the federal government and successive government in Nigeria have not paid attention to. And that is why I center my discussion today on political inclusion, economic inclusions, and social skill for indigenous people of FCT, empowering and promoting the right of FCT indigenous people. This is one of those things that the federal government needs to do. And I need to say this. It is highly unfortunate that the issue of FCT indigenous people is becoming so disheartening, as if we had no indigenous people in any other part of the world. When we talk about indigenous people, it is not restricted to Nigeria alone. And by now, since 1976, that FCT has been declared as Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, I believe by now we ought to have done better in accommodating the indigenous people of FCT. Having said this, in academics, we always try to provide conceptual clarification for us to understand ourselves. The speaker and the audience need to be on the same page. And that is why we have to follow this Socratic tradition in conceptual clarification. On this, who are the people of, who are the indigenous people? Let's start from there. Anywhere in the world, when you hear indigenous people, it actually refers to a distinct ethnic group with the same ancestral ties and natural instinct, natural resources to their motherland. That is to say, the indigenous people are those that have an distinct ethnic, cultural values, and these values is closely tied to their motherland. And that is what makes indigenous people to be what they are. As a matter of fact, the global estimation of the indigenous people is about 476 million, equivalent to the 6% of the total world population that we have today. So the indigenous inhabitants of Federal Capital Territory, according to the recent research, which might have been upgraded by now, comprise of ethnic group like Gwari, Koro, Gwandara, Galagada, Afo, Hausa, Fulani, and Basa ethnic groups. If you are one of those groups that are here, a round of applause for yourself. And all these ethnic groups in FCT, they are predominantly farmers. That is to say, they are the one creating the food basket for the entire North Central and Nigeria at large. Unfortunately, today, over 2 million indigenous people of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, otherwise known as original inhabitants, representing 8 tribes and 17 chiefdoms, face systematic exclusion from their own land, and the successive government is silent on this. As a matter of fact, the land disposition, political disenfranchisement, economic exclusions, and cultural erasure without urgent decisive action is very, very imminent. And that is why we must see it as a collective responsibility of every individual who stands for fairness, justice, and equity to call the attention of the federal government to these great injustice perpetuating against the people of FCT. When I say people of FCT, I'm referring to the indigenous people of Federal Capital Territory. And as a matter of fact, the Nigerian government's repeated failure to uphold its commitment to respect the protection of the rights of indigenous people in FCT is something that we need to rise up against. The successive government in Nigeria has been told about what to do to ensure political inclusion, economic inclusion, and ensure that the values, cultures of indigenous people of FCT are being properly protected. But unfortunately, just like every other germane issue in Nigeria, the Nigerian government has not done what is expected of it. The Nigerian government has continued with land grabbing, land disposition, and satisfying their own selfish interest, their own nefarious interest, their own pervasive interest, their own catastrophic interest at the detriment of people of the Federal Capital Territory. And I always say that the people of Federal Capital Territory, the indigenous people of FCT, they are the most peace-loving people in Nigeria. And I will justify that. I will justify that. It takes less than 20 years for the people of Niger Delta to start revolting against the federal government of Nigeria. And you could imagine how federal government reacted to such revolution from Niger Delta. And we must not wait until the people of FCT start agitating in a violent manner. one of our daughters here who made a presentation as a poet, she ended up by saying we should all rise and fight for our right. This is something that we should avoid. The moment we allow violence to creep into our demands for our right, then Nigeria is not going to be safe again. That's why we need to call on the federal government to realize the savage, the disciplined effort of our neighboring countries who can easily influence the indigenous people of FCT to take arms against the federal government for their right to be given to them. Because over the years, the federal government has been doing things that are disservice to humanity, something that are creating disposition of indigenous people of FCT. We cannot continue with this. If the federal government understands the conflict management mechanism through which we can integrate and make the indigenous people of FCT to feel better, then the right things need to be done. Secondly, I also need to say that the systematic marginalization of indigenous people in FCT by the federal government needs to come to an end by making sure that federal capital territory is treated like every other state in terms of political inclusion. Although I blame some of the political elites in federal capital territory on this, I blame some of them. I'm so sorry, sir. A lot needs to be done by the political elite among the indigenous people of FCT. In most cases, some of these political elites only argue for themselves. They don't argue for the entire people of FCT. And that is why this particular agitation must be done, and it must start from within. Political office holder, political elite among